Zoinks! It's the gay blade of the ghost.
Alright, okay, you win. Alright, I'll watch it. I'll watch Cyber Chase. Are you happy now?
It's the all-new movie Scooby-Doo and the Cyber Chase. Coming to video cassette and DVD October 2001.
The last of the Mook films, the last to launch on VHS, the last to be directed by Stenstrom. I originally didn't cover this film because it kind of exists outside of the first three. Across the trilogy, we've seen the old formula slowly creep its way back in, and that innovative, darker tone slowly drain away. Cyber Chase is the culmination of all of this. While it's a project that's still doing some pretty weird things worth talking about, it represents the reset button being hit, and hit hard. It's the series going back to normal.
And why, you may ask?
Well, as mentioned, Witcher's Ghost production was pretty fraught with executive meddling, and while Alien Invaders seemed to offer some hope to the team that this was a one-time issue, Cyber Chase would have more pressure than ever before. For instance, to prevent being circumvented again like in Witcher's Ghost, a contracted writer was forced in by the studio very late into Cyber Chase production. This meant that not only did they have barely any time to animate his changes, there was no time to get creative about it. No surprise third act this time to save the film. I'm totally empathetic for their frustration. These are staple figures in the series. They've had massive success, and now they're having to answer to someone with zero animation experience, having to even argue and fight to veto ideas that were literally impossible to animate. And it really is a shame, as Stenstrom's original pitch for the film sounds like it was pretty surreal and kind of wacky. For instance, in an example of meta-comedy, all of the cyberspace sections were originally planned to be live action. I can only imagine how that would have looked. With Leopold already gone, Cyber Chase just pushed things too far. Doi, Stenstrom, and Falk all left the franchise too. The brain trust that had revived the franchise and garnered critical praise was now officially dead. Though we don't know anything about it, they had already planned a fifth film that was more in line with the first two, but they were just fully convinced they were not going to be allowed to make it how they wanted. We got Legend of the Vampire instead.
I was getting worried. Now I am worried.
Great. So why did the studio give them a pass for Alien Invaders and then suddenly come down harder than ever before? It's kind of hard to tell. Studios can be fickle and sometimes even act randomly. One difference I did notice, however, is that Alien Invaders was the last full project to be made while William Hanna was still alive. Cyber Chase itself is dedicated to him. Now, I don't really believe a 90-year-old executive producer actually had that much input in these films, but the changing of the guard might have just introduced a more heavy-handed approach to overseeing projects. In fact, in the wake of his death, WB did absorb the studio into itself, and even removed the classic Hanna-Barbera logo at the end of their cartoons. Still, that's just the way it sometimes goes. Let's get into the actual film one last time.
Oh, it's Cyber Chase, I guess.
The other films had big title reveals and exciting set pieces to kick things off, but this time it's just, fuck, yeah, you know what you're watching. More than the others, this doesn't feel like a movie, it feels like an episode of What's New Scooby-Doo. Now, that show was fine, but come on.
Any progress, Eric?
Sorry, Professor Kaufman. There's still something wrong with the program.
Well, if we come to any more experiments with the laser, we'll always fix it.
Are you joking? I'm sorry, there's just no way to find this guy intimidating. I kind of like the yellow features, they're a nice touch, but he looks like a Freakazoid villain. He is the bad guy for the film. The human doodle. Continuing Alien Invaders' brevity, the film once again forgoes any wraparound or setup in favour of just getting right to the point.
It's so impressive that Eric received a grant for his computer project.
In this case, being the gang visiting an old friend, who's recently gotten attention for his VR game he made based on their adventures in the original TV show. They're taking this very well, considering he did not ask permission to do this. Now let's address the elephant in the room, the first thing you're probably already noticing. the unfortunate decrease in animation quality. You can still see the ghost of the style the trilogy once had, but the colours are more saturated, shading is very basic, backgrounds are simpler to say the least, and characters are moving considerably more rigidly. Now, most people chalk this up to it being one of Mook's early digital projects, having first cut their teeth on Season 1 of X-Men Evolution.
Yeah, I get it.
That certainly explains things like issues with the colours. However, the biggest contribution has to be the fact that, thanks to those last-minute writing decisions, a significant portion of the animation had to be outsourced to an unknown studio just to meet the deadlines. And you can really tell which ones. I mean, fuck, I would have quit too. The voice cast is as strong as ever, at least. Outside of Matthew Lillard as Shaggy, these are still the voices I associate with these characters. Though this is unfortunately the last time we'll be hearing Scott Innes and BJ Ward. We're also missing any guest voices, no Tim Currys or Mark Hamill's this time, which is a real shame.
What's the matter, Velma? Don't you like the new, improved Ben Ravencroft?
We do have Lupin III's voice as this Hatman. I just wanted to mention Lupin III. Okay, alright. I'm sorry, I won't keep harping on about the animation, but what the hell did they do to Daphne? She looks like an inflatable sex doll. Using paper overlays is a nice attempt, but God, I mean, look at this. It looks finger painted. You can feel the artists trying to get their talent to show through the technology. The lab technicians show off their Willy Wonka Tron machine they've invented. They've been using it to zap objects into cyberspace to make game development time go quicker. I mean, there's just gotta be a better use for that.
Well, there's no virus in my baseball game, and it's more entertaining.
Knuckles baseball.
That's really cool, Bill.
And around this scene is when I noticed the sheer frequency of sound effects. I feel like they're trying to counter the reduced frames this time by creating the illusion of movement through sound design.
Like you want us to be virus bait? Like, no way, man.
If it's just a computer virus,
For
then
God's
why
sake,
would they do it in the
Daphne,
real
blink!
world?
Anyway, while in this lab, the gang are sucked into the video game, and the rest of the film revolves around them trying to escape. Oh, here it comes! Yeah, hell yeah! Remember when everything was doing this at the time? God, we were so impressed with the bare minimum of CGI. Oh, innocent times. I want to go back.
Throw a switch or something and get him out.
The game doesn't work that way.
It did before. So now we're here, you could argue that the whole cyberspace angle is science fantasy and thus continue in the spirit of introducing fantastical elements. But I can't say it's doing much for me. Feels less like an evolution and exploration of the genre as the first three did, and just more doing a gimmick. It also has that distinct early 2000s problem of trying to represent video games but never actually feeling like them. Not unlike those old Fox Kids video game bumpers, if anyone else remembers those. As a kid, I really wanted to play this. In fact, it almost feels like they originally planned to do a time travel film, but for whatever reason had to pare it back. In any case, the gang has to beat each level in order to leave. Standard stuff for this kind of setup. Scooby-Doo inventing the isekai genre 20 years ago. Thanks for that. Oh, but there's a hitch. While beating the game, they're being chased by the Phantom Virus. On more than one occasion, you can unfortunately make out the background peeking out from under the upper cells. This is an issue caused when the layers are misaligned with the aspect ratio. I gotta imagine that these are due to those rushed, outsourced shots. Same for those backgrounds too. I noted the finger-painted tier ones early, but some others are perfectly fine. It's jarring. We'll go from this genuinely nice Egyptian background to actual stretched and compressed JPEG tier backgrounds.
It might be a little early for a celebration, gang.
Oh my god. So this is the loop for the rest of the film. With the whole setting being this lab, we're foregoing the Americana road trip vibes for the first time. And with the bright colours and the cyberspace levels, there's not any gothicism either. Even the big throwback in the third act is an operating theme park rather than a spooky abandoned one, which just feels like a big oversight. With all of that in mind, how's the mystery element then? The last of the core pillars. The ghost likes baseball, so it's the guy who likes baseball.
Let's play ball. How's this for a heavy hitter? You're in the major leagues now. Let me introduce you to the home team. Let's play ball.
Oh my god. I get it. Yeah, we're pulling a Sherlock. There's not really any mystery this time. Detective work is suddenly gone after a nice building up of it in the last 3 films. In fact, the whole film is essentially one long chase scene, so there's also a lot less interaction between the gang. In general, this one really feels skewed to a much younger audience than before.
Get back, you creepy thingy!
Creepy thingy?
Like, not just younger than the relatively mature Zombie Island, younger than even the original show. You really feel that new writer. So much of the gang's back and forth is dedicated solely to exposition, which just wasn't an issue before.
The wax is hardening. He can't move.
So, while running through the levels, we somehow get a song that's the most aggressively 2000s one yet. I'm in the right. Have you seen him? Not to be overly negative though, the last third of the film does focus on an admittedly neat idea. That being the gang meeting older versions of themselves and real versions of their past monsters. You get out of here, gun! I'll give him a pass for this one. They legit did it way better in Monsters Unleashed. The idea in Cyber Chase is great, but the choices are really odd. I mean, they've got Creeper, which is good. He's kind of the quintessential Scooby-Doo villain. And I've always thought Monsters Unleashed made some kind of mix-up and chose zombie by accident. But then we have Gator Ghoul, Old Ironface, Jaguaro. I mean, where's Captain Cutler? Where's the 10,000 volt ghost? And how did both of these films do my boy Space Kook so dirty? Still, gotta give them props with coming up with the idea. I do love it, it's just another film was able to do it better and with a nice large selection of them.
It's like every villain we've ever faced is here.
It's like 5 of our villains are here. It's a lot harder for the audience to get invested in the gang meeting their older selves. If this was the Zombie Island versions, I mean, yeah, that could be fun. I particularly would have enjoyed seeing the cynical, proactive Daphne meet her more blasé older self. But by this point, they've pretty much regressed into being the same characters they used to be. Less, look how far we've come, and more, there are 2 dogs now. Couple of ascot jokes, gotta have that. And we're done. Oh my god. Putting Shaggy in his red shirt is a bit of a nice deep cut reference, but I also feel they had to do it because otherwise they just look exactly the same.
Hey! Why mess with a classic look?
Oh, and it's about time for that second song. What? Where are the lyrics? They run out of money. Well, time to wrap this one up. They corner the cyber virus and manage to outsmart him.
Team Scooby so brave. Oh, I get it. That's Cyber Scooby. And that's Old Scoob going
Stop explaining! Job done. Really wasn't hard. The gang meet with themselves for one last goodbye before returning home.
I guess this is goodbye.
Bye!
Oh, fuck, I'm gonna cry. Ben is arrested for sabotaging the game out of jealousy, and the gang have lunch. That's the ending. I didn't mention before, but I loved the endings of the other 3 movies a lot. From the peaceful sunrise releasing the tension that hung over the bayou, to the high-energy celebratory concert in Witch's Ghost. Woo! Ben's dead! To the surprisingly touching ending to Alien Invaders. It's not till this film that I really appreciated how they all hit different tones, but nailed their closings. This ending feels underwhelming. It's like it's going through the motions. Job done, let's have a hamburger. Which does fit the rest of the film's issues. It's a very frivolous affair, which can be fine, but it also lacks the incredible amount of charm Alien Invaders had. My fiancée, who was surprised at how much she enjoyed the first 3, had one thing to say about this one as the credits rolled against stock carnival music. Well, that was soulless. I wouldn't go that far myself. I think there is effort and care put into the film, but it's just buried deep by executive meddling and a technological shift they weren't ready for. I think that's most clear at the very, very end. The film has this really long and odd after-credits sequence with the cast talking about their favourite parts of the movie.
Just because I wear nice clothes and like to shop doesn't mean I don't have a sense of adventure.
Them all being scenes we've never seen before. Now, my initial thought was that this was just buying time and padding out the film, but then if that was the case, why stick it here after it's all over? And what's with all these shots they keep using? I think these stills are actually concept storyboards from cut scenes. They're definitely composed as such. It backs up my theory that these are scenes cut from the original draft, or even half completed before the new writer came in and changed so much. I find it very telling that these short tidbits have way more personality for the gang than any of the preceding events.
You look so cute in that outfit, Freddy.
Cute? That's not what I was going for.
Like, they're finally allowed to stop explaining shit endlessly and be real characters. And I'm fully convinced that the original ending had Cyber Scoop come out of the real world, not that underwhelming lunch scene. It's a nice thought that for how much the team was messed around and their project tampered with, they were able to squeeze in at least a little bit of what they had originally wanted at the very last second. And because of that, I find it hard to be too harsh, even though this is a bad film. I know a lot of people look back fondly on Cyber Chase, but even as a kid I knew something was off with this one. Rewatching all 4 films with adult eyes, it was really great being able to define the many elements of what was making them so special, and it was truly surprising to see basically none of them present in this one. But I don't want to get all angry reviewer though, it's just a bad cartoon end of the day. Scooby-Doo certainly has plenty of those.
You're pushing your luck, Scoob!
And if you asked little Hasselvania Jr. if he liked Cyber Chase, he'd probably say yes. But I wonder whether he'd say that just because he liked video games, and the film had video games in it, you know, you wouldn't revisit this one during Halloween. Oh, and the DVD comes with this original song.
You'll find our favorite seat.
Cause Scooby-Doo and Shaggy love to eat.
God, I'm so sorry, Sky Cycle, please come back.
Oh no, it's a morgue. All those patients that disappeared, they're dead.
So, you've listened to me ruminate on this silly dog show for
58 minutes 53 seconds 11 milliseconds.
But I've loved this franchise ever since I was a little shit. So, to make sure the nostalgia goggles aren't involved, I've gotten Truffs over here from Truffs Stuff, giving her thoughts after having watched the trilogy for the first time ever.
It's me. I really did have no frame of reference at all for the whole Scooby-Doo IP until very recently, and I suspect, in the fallout from Velma, that some of you might also be in the same boat. The more I think about it, the more convinced I am that Mindy Kaling is playing 4D chess with us to get us to watch all these older adaptations. Pop culture throughout the last 20 to 30 odd years might have you believing that something being Scooby-Doo is an insult, synonymous with childishness, with dreary quote-unquote mysteries for little kids born in the 1950s, and cheap animation to boot. But watching this trilogy, starting with Zombie Island, had me understanding at long last why this IP has such an appeal. It is not possible to understate just how lovable the gang is in these films. They're not just accessories to the dog, and the dog himself isn't an annoying gimmick in the slightest. Within the first few minutes of the trilogy, we see how much each member of the gang cares for one another, even though years have passed. Another strength of the gang that comes through in the trilogy is their diversity. Yes, I know, I see them, I know, they're all white, I see them, I know. Each one of them is a very different kind of person, is what I mean. You have your well-meaning slight himbo in Fred, your curious skeptic in Velma, your high-flying dreamer in Daphne, and your lovable goofball gluttons in Shaggy and Scooby. Even if you had them all look exactly the same, they've got clearly defined personalities that come through not because we're told that Velma's clever, or that Shaggy's a bit scattered, but because their personalities are strong enough that they all come through in the way each member of the gang responds to the same mystery unfolding in front of them. Take even one of the gang out and each film's plot would have gone quite differently. Not only do they all love each other, but they all work in tandem. And they're just cute.
We've been levitated before, and there's always a magnet or wires somewhere.
No wires here, Fred. This just gets better and better. Maybe from where you're standing.
That's enough by itself, which is partly why I think Scooby-Doo's original cheap animation didn't hinder its massive popularity. But these films are beautiful. There is no scene that comes to mind where the artists and animators phoned it in. It may not be the best animated thing ever, but it doesn't need to be. It's still visually engaging. The backgrounds are gorgeous and handcrafted, and the atmosphere palpable, especially in... As well as the art though, the plots themselves are loving tributes to the original Scooby-Doo status quo. As Hasselvania has already said, departing from this status quo is important in creating this sense of the gang growing up in more ways than one, because so many generations of people grew up with the gang. The monsters being real is a fun adventure itself, given how atmospheric these films are, but it's like the gang has had their standard hijinks kicked up a notch now that there are bigger stakes. All in all, this trilogy of films has made me want to go back and look through the history of Scooby-Doo as a whole, because if a straight-to-VHS adaptation like this is such a cluster of bangers, maybe shows like Be Cool or Mystery Inc. also carry at least a hint of what makes this IP so well loved. So if you've also never watched any Scooby-Doo, like I hadn't, I think these films are a great place to start.
So here we are, at the end of our journey. The direct-to-DVD films would continue on and on and on. I know a lot of people really like Cyber Chase, the fourth of the films, but from the tone to the animation to the story, it's clearly a huge step away from this original trilogy and into the format the yearly DVD movies would adopt for the next 22 years. Whew. Though I've only dipped into them a little bit, I've heard largely nothing but good things. In particular, I think it's really fun they made one to finally give 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo a proper conclusion. The series that infamously only ever showed 12. And hell, they actually gave us more Courage the Cowardly Dog content 21 years after that show ended. That show is such a great rewatch, by the way, it really holds up. I'll have to watch that film soon. Cyber Chase isn't just fondly remembered, it was another big hit. In that way, it was kind of the last straw. It just didn't make sense to not be capitalising on the franchise more than yearly VHS films. The show would finally return with What's New Scooby-Doo, a true to the original series that did pretty well and teed up the first live-action movie. A film which, as I already mentioned, borrows heavily from these ones to, less of a success. I'm not sure I'd say the trilogy saved the franchise. I don't think something as big as Scooby-Doo was ever going to stay dead. It's forever burnt into the cultural zeitgeist, indicated alone by the parodies upon parodies upon parodies.
I tell you what, I think Shaggy must be very bitter, because he's obviously invested a lot of time in teaching that dog to talk, and it just can't.
But it was a surprise jolt to its sleeping form. It kind of made people realise what an endearing goldmine they were sitting on, and it continues to this day. For better and for worse, this goofy-ass dog is going to outlive us all. And I'm okay with that.
Third level, lots of luck.
Like what did you say, Scoob?
Go on then, let's do a quick ranking. 1, 2, 3. Thanks so much for watching this video. I still have 2 massive projects in the works coming up, and this was meant to be a nice normal video to put out in the meantime, but I guess long-form videos are just in my blood. With everyone rightfully dunking on Velma as well, I also felt pushed to move this video up and talk about why the series was so good and why people do get so upset when it's not treated right. Speaking of which, what is your favourite iteration of Scooby-Doo? I'd be really interested in hearing. Everyone seems to have their own specific choices, usually based on when they were born. I'm always down there in the comments annoying people, so I guess I'll see you there. Until next time, stay spooky. Ooh.
Scooby-Dooby-Doo?
And we just might be in danger. Oh, the ghost is here and it's always a fake. The ghost is here, there's no reason to shake. The
Ghost is here, oh, give us a break. It's fake. Another ghoul attacks